But we'll jump right in. So there's a Q&A feature online, so feel free to drop your questions in the chat box for that, and we'll try and ask the questions as they come in. Anyone here in the room, feel free to jump in with questions at any time. We like things to flow, but I'll jump right in. So Gibsey, Josh, thank you so much for being with us this morning. So we've actually known each other and been friends for 20 years.
Yeah, the girls went to preschool together. Yeah,
yeah,
where we met. Yeah.
So
and the girls are now 18. So
yes.
yeah,
It's been a while.
and older and younger.
Yeah. But so tell us about your journey, because I've known you go from the family-owned business that already had its own history to Josh with your brother creating your own brand, to this third chapter with the launch of Thibido. So do you want to jump in and kind of give us a history, a little bit of the background before talking about what you're doing now?
Do you want to start first on how you got introduced first?
Yeah, sure. So I met Josh in college, and the first time not the first time, but as we got to know each other, he would introduce me to the fact that his family was in the wine industry. It's kind of the first time that I ever realized that wine was an entrepreneurial business, that was a small business that families had their names on the back label. It never really occurred to me. I'm from a family of educators, small business entrepreneurship, that wasn't really on my radar. So meeting his family and seeing the process was really special. And then as we progressed in our relationship and got closer to marriage, I ended up, and I'm not sure, I can't remember if I was married or if we were married or not, but I ended up running the tasting room for a while at Peachy Canyon. And that was an experience. I had no idea what I was doing. So I apologize to anybody who worked under me, but I learned a lot and at a fast pace. And then we had the opportunity to go to Australia. And I think that was where Josh worked at the winery, and I was pregnant, but I also shadowed a woman that did a lot of food service for the staff. We were at Cape Mentel, and they ran a 24-hour operation for all of their harvest interns. It was insane. But they knew how to treat their customer or their staff right. They were really on a more progressive path than California was as far as safety. And
in Australia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, we were in Margaret River on the west side, just below Perth. And so anyhow, when we came back, we had all these great ideas. We were so excited. And of course, we'd been in the industry. Josh had been around his family for a long time. So we came back to Peachy Canyon, and we were really excited to implement all these things that we had learned. And so, which really meant that for me, my implementation meant I was serving meals to 14 of our harvest crew 1 to 2 times a day, 5 to 7 days a week. And that was a huge endeavor. And I had a baby on my back, and then that evolved over many years. We really believed that the staff working under him as the winemaker at the winery really deserved to have that experience.
So that's a novel like this, because I know in France, for example, we have that culture too. And you see it in the restaurants too, right? When you walk in a restaurant, the whole staff and the chef eat together.
Yes.
They have their meal before the service starts, so, and that's something you brought back from Australia.
And we weren't doing it. Yeah. And we continued that tradition for probably a decade. I mean, it was fun for me, and it made it so that we were a team during harvest. We always have run a skeleton crew at Peachy Canyon. So everybody works really hard, especially during harvest. And there were some years that we probably worked too hard and served a lot of meals. So yeah.
And Josh, what was your role in Peachy?
So mine was me and Gibsey. I grew up in Paso Robles. Obviously, my parents started Peachy Canyon. There were 8 wineries.
There were 8 wineries.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So we were actually a little winery called Tobias before Peachy Canyon. That was a partnership deal, and that was, yay big. Pat Wheeler, my dad's partner, didn't think Paso would ever turn into a wine region. So he kind of just said, I'm done, I'm out. Moved to Oregon, and my parents decided to build a barn in our backyard and started Peachy. I grew up with it. There was, such a few amount of wineries. Like my friends growing up didn't even know that we had a winery. It wasn't like there was this novelty or it wasn't anything special. It was just your parents' job. Grew up with it, wanted to get out of Paso. There was no culture in Paso at the time, no good food. You know, it's a whole different world now up there.
And just to put things into perspective, today, how many wineries are there in Paso today? There's more than 300.
Yeah, brands, coming out of more than 300. There's over 100, wineries and tasting rooms. I sit on the board at the Paso Wine Alliance, so I live and breathe a lot of it and see it coming and going. And every meeting we have, there's new members. It's amazing. I don't even know where they're coming from or where, or who they are, but it's it's mind boggling. But graduated, went off to college, didn't want to do the wine industry at all. Didn't appreciate the Central Coast for what it is or what it has to offer. Came back, my parents asked me to come, and I was managing a surf shop after I graduated from college. That was the happiest time of my life. I was living the dream. I was like, finally, I made it.
In Ocean Beach.
Ocean Beach, San Diego, just cruising, doing the surf shop thing, and got the phone call to come back and help to get their tasting room up and going. So I was could do retail.
It was the POS system.
Yeah,
That
they
was
didn't
like,
understand.
Dad was like, we have a POS system. We don't know what that is. And
Right.
come back and set it
Get
up.
this up and get the inventory dialed in, blah, blah, blah. And that was supposed to be 2 weeks. That was in
And harvest
1998, and then harvest started, and hey, we're shorthanded. There's only 3 employees in the winery, and I said, yeah, I'll stay. And then lo and behold, here we are today. Stayed, just started at the very bottom, working under different winemakers, and just slowly moved up over time, did some online courses, got the bug all of a sudden, realized this is a pretty cool gig, and then kept kind of working our way up. And like Gibsy said, we went to Australia for a while, and that really got things going. Came back and had eventually moved into that head winemaking role, and then that was when that
So you're a
time,
winemaker as well as the operational.
day-to-day operations, winemaking, vineyard management, all of the above. We have 5 different vineyards in Paso that oversee as well. But during that, after Australia and getting super Peachy was really growing. It was skyrocketing in production, and we were global at that point. We were traveling a lot. My brother was traveling tons, 3 weeks a month, probably on the road trying to sell it, and as it got more competitive, as the brand was growing. And then that's when all of us, at the same time, I really wanted to, I had somewhat of an entrepreneurial kind of desire or a creative side.
A little bit
And
of.
wanted to be, didn't want to be the son or the sons with my brother and I, or the family that just was handed a brand and just a winery and just kept it going forever. It just didn't have the spark. So I wanted to create something that more represented us and our generation at the time. Wine, the early 2000s, wine was very cookie cutter still. There was no alternative branding. There was no edginess to it yet. Everything was still a castle on a hill or a horse frolicking through the creek, right? And that was the labels, and everything was whimsical, and everything really looked the same.
Yeah. I think a lot of times we were attending events or pouring wine on behalf of Peachy Canyon, and we always felt like we were the odd man out. We were younger. We didn't really fit the
profile.
Yeah, it was a little frustrating to feel like, I guess we have to grow into this, or, how do we make this work for us? And I think that's how Chronic Cellars came to be.
And Chronic. And then so I wanted to do something that, who we were, and something different, and create a brand that would sell itself. So we were tired of traveling and tired of hand selling and tired of doing case stacks and discounts and trying to compete with the Gallos and the Constellations and the Delicados of the world that have armies of people, and we're the small little family Peachy Canyon. So we, Chronic, and that's a whole nother conversation.
So when did you launch Chronic? When
Chronic was in about 2004. We started with 40 cases. It was a tiny, my brother and I had come up with this concept. My parents thought we were crazy. My dad was.
So did your wife, because that was the year our first child was born. There is no startup that's easy.
I know. In 2004, we had the idea. My dad generously, we said, we went to him first and said, hey, do you want to partner up on this? And he's, says, hell no. This is crazy. This will never work. This doesn't fit the mold.
Right.
So, and he said, okay, how about,
How old were you then? Is it okay to ask?
I don't know, I'm
30s?
almost 50 now. So,
When you started
30, no, mid-30s.
Mid-30s,
Mhm,
okay.
yeah.
So yeah, he just said, I had bottled wine for Peachy Canyon. I'd run out of labels on a particular wine. And so I had like 40 cases of what we deemed as shiners. They had no labels. He goes, here, I will give you these to get this out of your system. You won't be able to sell it. You'll realize it's not going to work and we'll move on. I was like, sweet. So he gave us the 40 cases. My brother and I came up with the Chronic concept. We literally did hand crack and peel labels on every bottle. And
you found there's a story behind the designer you found, right?
so that was my
the
childhood
labels.
friend.
Right.
Yeah, so Joe Calionesis, who's still in Paso, still doing
Check him
awesome.
out on Instagram.
Yeah,
He-
good.
These labels are outrageously
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
They're very,
Well,
Every-
he did the
Interesting.
art, and Jake always came up with, your brother came up with all the names, the
names,
Soap
yeah.
King Bueno and the,
yeah.
yeah.
Purple Paradise and the
Paradise.
Dead Nuts and all the
Yeah.
whimsical crazy stuff. But he's wanted to try it. We tried it. We went to our local J&L, who's a distributor here locally that had always represented Peachy. Went to Lorraine, whose husband is John Alban, who's a world-renowned Rhone producer. And Lorraine looked at us like we were crazy. Please don't make us do this, Jake. We love you. We have a great relationship. This is not going to work. And Jake just said, please just show it to your team. The people are actually out on the street selling it. Because it was just it was a Katrina doll and it didn't have any names yet. It just was a petite Syrah. And she took it to her GSM, her meeting with her team and showed it to everybody. And everybody was like, yes,
Oh,
please, finally something different. It's not the same label that we have of 50 other SKUs.
Yeah.
So she took them, they sold them. And then we really got serious. And it was really like 2008 where we really we came up with the brand, came up with the names, came up with the a lineup.
Yeah.
Kind of went from there. And
But you were still selling, when you were selling for Chronic, you were still using traditional distribution channels.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
So we were definitely in the we knew Jake who did most of the sales, really knew the distribution world and the 3-tier system.
So you were on the winemaking ops side.
I was on the wine,
sales
yeah, I
side.
was winemaking. We didn't have our own vineyards. I didn't have the Thibido estate, didn't have, those things. Was sourcing fruit from all over the Paso AVA, as far east and west as you can go, north, south. And then Jake was using the 3-tier system, but doing it via a lot of phone and email. Like our number one thing was that if we had to start getting on the road to selling the wine, that we had made one bottle too many. We wanted it all to be hand sell. So when people saw it on the shelf, they would grab it and take it because of the art. And then when they would try it, we focused on the quality as well. And that way that when we were doing events and pouring next to our peers who have this high-end wax top with the super glossy etched bottle and whatnot, they couldn't knock it because the quality was there.
Right.
Even though the branding was crazy and different, nobody's used to it. But yeah, 3-tier system, and then we opened a tasting room, and then
So you
we
still did the
we
tasting
did the tasting room. We did all the traditional marketing that you're supposed to do,
But just not on
essentially.
the road.
Just
So
not-
that was kind of a stepping stone. So we'll talk about
Yeah.
Thibido because there's a whole other, so you took on a whole other approach with Thibido
Yes.
again. So you refined the system.
changing.
But before we launch into that, so you sold Chronic.
So
And so one question I had for you is, when did you know it was the right time to sell? Maybe not so much, maybe the why and how did you know it was the right time to sell? What happened there? Is there a good time?
yeah,
Is there a good
there-
time to sell? Is it?
there
the right
is,
time?
I think, because in the wine industry, the way to really become those who become profitable really, and it's a love affair first and a business second, in my opinion. My dad always has told me the opposite: business first, love affair second. But when you see the numbers and the overhead that it takes to get into the industry and into the business. It's mind-boggling why anybody does it. So we were at that crossroads where our distribution world was really growing, and we were getting ahead, we were borrowing more, right? You get on that hamster wheel and it's going out and coming in and going out, coming in, and it's good, but it becomes a little overwhelming. And we were growing out of the facility where we were producing the wine out of Peachy Canyon. We were a custom crush client, and we were looking at purchasing or building our own winery, or buying land, building a winery. And it was the numbers that we were looking at to go in debt was really, that kind of got me, I got a little spooked. Not that we couldn't have done it. It was really like we already have that with Peachy. We already have family facilities and debt, and and employees and staffing, and all of a sudden I saw it all happening again, and got nervous. We're already living that world. I don't know if we need to. So sat down with Jake, and the numbers and the how the growth was happening in the broad market and the tasting room and the wine club and all those things. I went to Jake and Gibsey and my brother's ex-wife Dawn, and was just like, hey, I just put this out there. Like, what do you guys think about this? Like, maybe we could sell this, maybe. And that's something that nobody has done in Paso, really, besides like Wild Horse and Justin.
And selling it without a facility.
Right. And we didn't have anything to sell. We only had a label and a name.
Right. So it was kind of like at that, you were at the next step to scale, and it was just, okay, before we take that jump, either we sell,
or if we're going to this level, we're going to be in for the long haul. And because then we're going to have to, because our debt to value ratio was so good at where we were at that moment, all of a sudden the debt was going to grow tremendously, and it was going to take a long time to get to that ratio again.
So another 10 years. You're like,
we were all in, and we weren't, it wasn't a one-hit wonder, because we had always focused on quality, which was nice. You see a lot of those brands come and go right now, whether it's energy drinks or beers or spirits or wine, where it's super cute and it works for a little bit, and then people get over it and they move on to the next one. And we hadn't hit that, and they still haven't. They're still growing and they're still doing well with it, but there was that possibility. So
sold in what year was it?
Well, it was a 5-year transition, so I feel like it started maybe in 12 or 13, and then 5 years of negotiating an improvement in production. Your numbers, you had a goal you had to set and or hit.
No, that was, so we not negotiate, we sold them, and then we had a non-compete, or I had to work for them for 5 years. I did 5 years, and then did an extension of a 6-year, actually.
So 6 years of non-compete. So what were your wheels? When did your wheels start turning?
The wheels really started turning.
Wheels were turning already.
On year one.
When we had when we got our first little payout, and all of a sudden I realized, like, maybe someday, I had always dreamed about owning our own piece of property that wasn't family, that we sought out and we found. And I had always dreamed of owning in a particular area of Paso. And when we were able to.
And was that area, was it because you knew it would be good for the grapes?
All the above. And had sourced grapes and bought from vineyards all around, and I always wanted to be in this certain area.
So your wheels were turning right away.
Right away. And and I got to go back to school, essentially working for WX, who had purchased it, learned a lot from them over those 6 years.
WX, who are they?
WX Brands, they're based out of Nevada. They're a global wine company. They're huge in negociant brands, where they do, like, Trader Joe's will come to them and say, hey, we want a German Riesling. They have offices in Europe, in the Southern Hemisphere, and here, and teams all over the world. The winemaking team will go out of the UK, they'll go to Germany, and they'll find a winery that has bulk Riesling for sale, and they'll buy the bulk, and then they'll come up with a package, and then they'll present it to. That's kind of their big business. But then they also own other wine brands like Chronic. So they own Chronic Cellars. They own Bread and Butter, which is a huge brand. They own our Daily Red, one of the largest organic wines in the nation. And then they have some other small stuff. They've dabbled in spirits and they've dabbled in beer, but
Yeah.
wine is really where they're at.
Okay. So your six come. And were you ready? Did you already, I mean, it's a, well, and it gives you, I mean, because this is really this is where you both went in together. And it's
Yeah.
your brand as
And it wasn't just, so the vineyard came first.
Yeah,
If we're pivoting down that Thibido road. And so this
Yeah.
was,
yeah.
we had finally had a little bit of cash, finally bought a piece of property, finally got to develop and plant the varietals and the site that I'd always dreamed of.
Well, that wasn't the plan. The plan was to buy a vineyard that was
Yeah.
operating so that it
Right.
could pay the
Exactly.
bills, and we couldn't afford a vineyard. And so we thought stupidly, we'll just buy dirt because we can afford that.
Raw dirt.
And then we'll
Yeah.
plant it, and that's a painful,
It is
long,
so
long
easy.
process. It's not easy. That's ignorance is bliss. So yeah, we went into it and we went into it thinking, well, a couple years and we'll have some fruit. Well, we're still almost there. Like
5 years later,
5 years for the fruit.
we had, it's just, we've been
not full production.
babying it along.
Yeah.
I want this to be a long term. I didn't want to just slam it in fast and start pumping out grapes right away and stress the vines.
Yeah,
Blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
yeah.
So we bought the land in 2018 and then planted it in 19. It happened to be it's very steep. I don't know if you can tell from the picture, but we ripped all of the soil and to prepare for the plants, and it happened to be one of the wettest winters. And so all
Before
this,
one.
Oh, right.
yeah, for this
yeah.
last one, and 18 to 19 was one of the wettest winters, and Josh, literally the rain would wash all the soil down
Oh,
the
gosh.
hillside and into every neighbor's driveway, and then every weekend Josh would go to Paso and shovel and apologize and shovel, and it was a long winter.
Yeah, yeah. So, and so until then, well, so let's backtrack a little bit. So, Thibido, the idea is born, but you had a very, very specific idea behind the brand you wanted to create. So let's talk a little bit about the brand and the idea piece, how that
Mhm.
came about before you actually launched.
So, when Josh left Chronic, his parents retired and they kind of said, here's Peachy Canyon. And so Josh and I and his brother Jake all stepped in and we tried to facilitate what we called Peachy Canyon 2.0, the next second generation, and kind of cleaned up the branding. And that was a lot of my project, and focused in on production and kind of honed in on our staff and just tried to regroup for the second generation. And we spent 2 years, solid 2 years, working through all that. But Josh and I were very clear on what a vision that we wanted for Peachy Canyon. And it was Peachy's been established since 1988. It's 35 years old. So it was already on its trajectory. And we kind of realized very quickly that what we wanted to change wasn't really going to happen because it was already established. And so I think that between planting the vineyard and having this excitement of, how we're going to have this really high quality grapes and then, realizing that, we can let Peachy do its own thing, and we could just have our own little label off of this vineyard and do it exactly the way that we are seeing this vision. So that's
So
kind of
what
how it
was the vision at that time? What were you thinking?
I think a lot of it was branding. It was not being the norm, being different, more environmentally conscious of the packaging, farming the vineyard organically, not trying to see if we can do it 100% online, trying not to do to do exactly the opposite again.
Right. So this is as I said earlier, this is, Chronic was a stepping stone towards this. But so brand wise, let's dig into that a little bit. So Chronic, it was more completely different from anything anyone's ever seen, pretty loud, crazy graphics. And that's not what Thibido is, but how is it different? How would you describe it as being different? And what's your is it a different target market? What's your approach there?
So I think for Chronic, we recognize now that it was more masculine and kind of louder and wild. And with Thibido, it's refined. That speaks to the wine as well. It tends to be a little bit more feminine. It's named for Josh's mom. Her maiden name is Thibido. And so we went with a more feminine approach. And then we tried to market towards, because Josh has trusted me to sort of drive the marketing, because that's what I was doing at Peachy Canyon. I tend to drive it more towards women, but you're always surprised by what your customer is. You think you're selling to this person, and then lo and behold, you're selling to someone else. So,
although to be fair, I remember seeing some market research on the wine industry where I think 80% of the wine purchases are made by women.
Yes,
right?
yes.
They're the ones that are, making.
And then, your sales last week were all men, it's just mind blowing what you learn, because it's constantly changing all the time. But I think for us, that was, we wanted something that was a luxury, higher end, high quality brand, made in a small way, and then as authentic as we could be, and stripping away all of the detractions that we were struggling with. And not struggling, I shouldn't say, but with Peachy Canyon, we have 20 employees. We have distribution through almost 50 states. Not probably anymore after COVID, but anyway, so it's a big animal. And so we thought, what do we love about this industry? And what are the challenges? How can we just make it what we want to do? This was a love affair. This was kind of a fun project. It started out that way, as they all do. You think, well, we've got some extra cash, and we'll just start this little label, and we'll pick the fruit, and it'll be great. Well, lo and behold, you realize, like, whether you're making 30 cases or you're making 300,000 cases, it's the same amount of work. And I did not realize that. I thought, I'll just sit at home and I'll send little emails and I'll make little labels. And we're 4 years. Well, three years into this. We launched in 2021. So, we're a year and a half of really rolling, and I'm like, okay, this has been a real learning curve. So
that's interesting though. It's that's a huge insight. No matter, it's not so much the quantity of the sales, those numbers, no matter what, that work around the branding, the image, the taste, the making the wine is just as intense up front. So we have a question online. Taste preference. So how did you define that? How is it different? Are you still the winemaker, Josh? Yeah. So how did you go for a different palate than you did for Chronic, or how does that work?
So it's I have a clean slate, right? So Peachy Canyon, there's a tradition behind it, and there's people expect certain things from certain wines. Right. They go into the grocery store, somebody goes in the store, and listen, I'm going to enjoy this. I know I don't have to overthink it. I can open it. I can drink it while I'm making dinner, and whatever I make is going to go great because I know what this wine is. And that's, and we're very fortunate to be able to do that and have that history and blah, blah, blah. With Thibido, there's no expectation there. And it allows me to experiment. With our white wine, I've always wanted to use a terracotta amphora, a clay pot, essentially, like go back in time what the Romans were doing and make wine, and something like that. Or
okay, this is super intriguing. Tell us about this.
So essentially it's a historical vessel, even though it's brand new. But
Italy.
Okay.
I have it. Manu up in Paso imports them. They come in all different sizes, particularly the same shape.
Is it a Roman? Is it literally thousands?
No, it was,
well, not that.
No, not that one.
But
it's the same. Yeah. There's no liner in it. They didn't try to, we're not trying to keep it perfectly sealed and clean. No, it still breathes through the clay. They're very delicate. You have to be very careful with hot water. They'll crack really easy. Moving them around is very challenging.
Watching you guys with the forklift on it, and it just sits on a pallet, and it's like
teetering
around. It's like,
but it's not to go down a whole winemaking path, but it breathes like concrete. It's porous like a barrel. but it doesn't impart any flavors like a barrel,
Yeah.
new or neutral does. It's super fun. It has a cool convection shape to where the wine naturally kind of moves and stirs itself throughout its life. And we ferment it and age it in there and then go
And
straight
it's
to
just
bottle.
is it just for white?
Just for white, but I
They
actually,
do make red wine.
I want to, I'm trying to get Gibsey to allow me to buy another one, but
These are the conversations we have over coffee is like, should we buy a concrete tank or another amphora? And it's.
and this one, that only makes about 25 cases of wine.
Okay.
So it's like, as the brand starts to grow and take, want to make more, but if where we're having success with this particular wine, I don't want to change the winemaking style. We have to get another terracotta, another amphora to be able to make more. So we have the same style of winemaking. But the taste, and back to the question, there is no profile yet of the brand because it's so new. So nobody knows what to expect. What we have leaned towards is Rhone varietals or Italian Rhone with the Vermentino. And we planted mostly Rhones and some Zinfandel for Peachy Canyon, but that is where we're leaning towards. And Gibsey's always a huge advocate to lower alcohol wines, slower and more elegant, really structured.
The taste
Yeah.
profile. It's my.
But it has its challenges as well, right? I'm trying, if you're trying to appease the critics, sometimes they expect a certain thing from Paso wines. If you're not worried about that, which we're really not yet, but someday maybe, but it's nice to see what they think about the wines.
Yeah. And actually, you've scored really well on some wines.
So so good,
yeah,
it's doing okay.
Do you want to share? I think you had some.
We had a,
This came out
yeah,
recently.
our Just Because got a 92 in Wine Enthusiast with its cellar selection. That's the 2021.
That fellow got a 94.
Yeah.
We have some a world-renowned critic, Jeb Dunnick, was just here in town. He just did like 4 days of tasting at the Cal Poly Wine and Vit Center of all the kind of Central Coast. So we submitted to that. We'll see what he has to say. He's so far, he reviewed the last year's wines and said
He's
some
been
good
pretty
things
kind.
about it.
Yeah,
So,
awesome. Congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah.
So what is your market share? Well, let's talk, maybe that's kind of, I'll turn that question around to, like, how many cases are you selling? Just to get an idea. And then maybe compare it to Chronic, so we have a sense of where you're at and how it's growing.
So
Give us the perspective of how long
yeah.
it takes to get from A to B,
So
right?
we are big, we're at our largest volume this year, which in our spring bottling, and it was like 300 cases.
Yeah.
When we sold Chronic,
We were at 17,000.
or 18,000 cases. And then Peachy in my heyday was almost 100,000 cases.
Yeah.
So we're just a few pallets of wine.
Yeah, so I used to fill more wine, during in Peachy and Chronic Cellars, we make all the time.
And it's
Right.
more challenging.
And it's almost harder, right? Because if those small quantities, coming up with vessels to keep things stored and aged properly, right? Like a lot of our wines are 1 barrel. And it's like, okay, well, what are you using to top that 1 barrel that's not going to change that wine very much? So we're going in every month to try to top them and keep them protected, but you don't want to alter the profile of the wine that you've made or the blend that you've made. But when you're only making 1 barrel of one wine, 25 cases, or that amphora, how do I keep that amphora topped up with wine that's not going to change that? So I have like these little kegs of whites that you're trying to keep and maintain, and it's a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
You make a carbonic. He made his first carbonic in 2020.
What's the carbonic? Can you explain?
So it's a
risky process.
So it's historically a lot of people, carbonic maceration, is when you essentially take the fruit out of the vineyard, and instead of running it through your traditional destemmer, where you're removing all the berries from the rachises, and then you're putting them in a vessel, and you're either punching them down like you see, or your foot trip walking on it, or you're pumping it over. Yeah, I do it with our stuff.
You did it with that fella.
Yeah.
Did it with that fella.
Yeah, we'll do some whole cluster and some destem and mix it, and
Yeah.
it's fun.
And so carbonic.
Carbonic, so you take all the grapes in, you just literally take it off the vine and you put it in a vessel and you
don't
fill it,
stand it.
you don't touch it. You
You
blow
look
all
for
the
really
ice.
pristine fruit.
Yeah,
You
you-
do it with low quality. Fruit.
Yeah.
It has to be really clean.
because you're not adding in zero sulfites, zero nutrients, zero yeast, zero, and you just literally put it in the vessel, blow all the, sparge it with CO2, essentially blow all the oxygen out so it doesn't oxidize like a bottle of wine does on
Right.
your shelf. You seal it up and you walk away. And
How
you let those
exciting.
native yeast
Yeah.
kind of take out, start fermenting, but
Yeah.
you have every little berry is a micro little fermentation. So you have millions, thousands of little ferments going. The natural weight of the fruit itself will slowly press itself down. Historically, people do it like Pinot Noir and Gamay, and it makes a really like a chillable red, really fruity and light and fresh and fun and summer style. But I started to do it with Syrah because, again, the taste preference profile, there wasn't one.
Yeah.
So I could make whatever and tried it, and then left it for 7 weeks the first time. The last vintage was 11 weeks, and so it's kind of totally different.
Is it more fun that you can experiment and
You
smaller
catching on to
batches?
that? You're catching on to that. There's like an
Yeah.
I
excitement.
think you
And it's
you're able to experiment
super
more.
fun. I get to experiment
Yeah.
more, and it really it even helps Peachy because
Mhm.
I can take these risks that Peachy maybe can't take because right there, they have a lot on the line. There's, thousands of gallons on the
Right.
line where this is
Right.
80 gallons.
Right.
Um,
So if you
like-
mess one up, it wouldn't be the end of it.
And it's not like,
It would hurt.
right, us,
Yeah, right.
but it wouldn't be, I
As
wouldn't have to go
dramatic.
to explain to my brother, like, hey, I screwed this
No, you
lot
just
up.
have to explain it to her. That's a little different.
That's,
okay?
yeah, that's easier. She can kick me in the middle of the night and that's about it.
To dinner.
Yeah, and smooth it over.
So what's also super intriguing is the actual marketing approach and the selling approach. So again,
Yeah.
another completely different route. Well, not completely different, but you've been so Chronic off the road, and now with Thibido, tell us a bit more about what you've opted for.
So talking about streamlining what we really loved about the industry and then going on an e-commerce, we went to an e-commerce route. That's basically what we did.
Yeah.
Which proves to be really challenging when you're selling wine. E-commerce is so prolific right now. Everybody's selling everything on Amazon, right? I mean, you can sell your socks on Amazon, you can knit your hats and sell them anywhere you want. With wine, we are a regulated product.
Yeah.
So regulated through 5 different federal and state and through every state government entities. So it's a real challenge. We came into it thinking like, okay, we're just going to sell online only. We'll use our social media, which we quickly realized, social media is awesome. It gives you authenticity. It has a lot of positives to it in connecting with your customer and keeping them up to date on what you're doing and, adding background to your story. But unlike, and I've bought plenty of shoes on Instagram, I can't sell you wine on Instagram. So it's been a real challenge.
Why?
Because you have to be 21 and over.
Oh, right.
You have to be verified. You can't,
So
we would
just
have to
those-
go through a third party in order to get that verification, Uber Eats or, something like that. But you can't just click shop now. So it's been
You
an
can't
interesting
sell wine on
journey.
social media, that's
Kidding.
which
Yeah, it's been a challenge.
it's super important to be there, and because
Yeah.
if you're not doing it, everybody else is, you're
Yeah.
gonna get lost in the weeds, and
Yeah.
like Gibsy
Yeah.
said, to keep you relevant, and
Yeah.
let everybody know, but yeah, it doesn't sell wine.
Right,
se.
right.
So there's a happy balance right there.
Okay.
I mean, trust me, I would love to just do reels all day long. That if I could sit at home and just make reels of Josh in the vineyard and our French bulldog, it would be awesome like that. And if it sold wine, if people could click now, that would make me very happy. So,
Okay, I didn't start getting in the weeds, like, can't you just like try to find a
Right.
yeah, it's been challenging.
It's-
So the other route that we're going is email.
Yeah.
and your ROI on email is awesome. So we're blasting emails. We touch and go with that. I work with Kelly and who's sitting here in the audience through the SBDC, and my lead consultant, Kristen Neal, has been awesome. And I've met so many people through the SBDC to try and sort of poke holes in this and pivot here and there to try and analyze the data and figure out which way we can go. So email campaign right now is our big focus. So if you want to sign up for our email, you can go to our website. I have to do it.
Yeah, of course.
And
And
then
what is the website?
the website is thibidowinery.com. So that's THIBIDO winery.com. And I try to really communicate everything that's going on with us, writing articles, keeping everybody up to date on, upcoming events and that sort of thing. And then also doing that hard sell via email of like, hey, we've got this 3-pack, or hey, we've got this wine that's got a great score. But you can only knock on people's doors so much, and
So the idea was, let's try and be completely online, and try that channel. So are you getting to a point where you're thinking, okay, maybe we need to hit other channels as well? Or are we just going to stick with this for a while? Are you rethinking a little bit?
Strategy. So a year and a half of doing this, and where we really, wine is a unique product. It's mind-blowing to me. People will buy a Tesla, click it, never
touched it, never drove it,
never test drove
60 grand gone.
And
50
yet,
bucks for a bottle of wine. Whoa, I gotta taste it first.
right? And that's been a real change. And I think the industry has actually created that customer.
Yeah.
We've backed ourselves into that corner as an industry of saying, just taste it, then you'll want to buy it, and I've bought a $20 4-pack of beer at the grocery store without ever tasting it. And it's beer. So I don't feel like I need to taste it, but wine, I feel like I need to taste it. So we're realizing that our greatest success is when we connect with people. People want to connect. And so if we can connect with them via email, if we can, do talks like this, if we can say, hey, we're an authentic brand, we're real people, we have our hands in the industry, we've got our hands in the wine, we're sending you the email. It really does come from me. I didn't hire anybody else to do it. You can email me. I don't have a phone number for the company, but like literally if you contact at any point, it's me. And we really hope that we can keep it that way. I don't know if that's a possibility. At 300 cases, we're doing it. Just, we pack the wine club. We're the kids come and help with the tasting.
Not
events.
enough wine though to be. We have to grow.
We will grow, and you're constantly pivoting with the small business. But so connecting with our customer has been our greatest success. So going to events has been good, but really hosting small private tastings in the winery, which is our one venue, and you get just Josh and I. And we're doing that for our wine club members, and we occasionally do a pop-up, which always sells out, and we have a great experience with that customer. We sit them down, they stand right at the amphora just like this. They sit in the winery and learn about our story and taste through the wines, and that seems to be the best way to do it.
That's an interesting because there is a trend for experiential.
It's huge. It's huge.
I'm searching for the words for that, but people want experiences, right? They're seeking experiences.
Maybe even more post-COVID, right?
Right.
When we get out of their house and connect with people.
So you're kind of tapping into something there too. Huh?
Yeah. And with the two of us, we can only do so many. So that it creates a demand, which is nice. We have limited availability, and it's controlled for us because we have family, we have kids, we have life, we're on the go. And so it's nice when we can say, hey, everybody, we're available on this day. Would you like to come and meet us and make an appointment? And we have a lot of fun doing it. And usually we can talk our 2 teenage daughters into coming to help and clear dishes and pour water and do that kind of thing. So it is really it's an authentic approach. And I think that's where a lot of wineries, as we grow, as wineries grow, even with Peachy Canyon, we have all this staff and we train the staff to tell the story, but it's, you've got a middleman between between us at Peachy Canyon and the customer. So
mhm.
it's fun for us to connect
Yeah.
directly with the customer.
And to share the passion, like we saw in the storytelling that that passion to making these smaller batches, all the experimenting is super cool.
Yeah.
So we have a question online again. Earlier you mentioned 2008 when you got serious in the business, and now you're in your own. I think that was in yours 1.5 years of growing. When did you reach your break-even point? Oh, break-even point for Thibido? So how long does it take to you're not there yet?
No. This is a hobby.
It takes so long.
Yeah, I mean, actually, you know what? That's a great topic because this whole idea,
Quit your day job.
your day job.
Don't quit your day job for a while.
True, yeah.
And also this idea of the overnight success, right? And even in tech, people have this belief, but I remember Rick Stallmeyer, it's like, there is no overnight success. It takes 10 years.
Well, and then, and like Rick Stallmeyer maybe, and then a few of our colleagues who got these crazy, really like we're saying a 94 point wine. 15 years ago, you'd be sold out.
Yeah.
Today, 94 doesn't mean anything. It's like 98 and 100, then okay, you'll sell it. And it has to be a particular critic too. It can't just be any, I can go get 98 points from some random dude in some county fair in Kansas all day long, but there's like 4 people that actually have that pull. And same like with the tech world, so like those things don't, it's not as easy as it used to be. And then now with social media and stuff, people can drag you down and crush you overnight. And they're just some person that's got 30,000 followers and they can decide to say something negative and it's scary.
Yeah. So, but this is really a passion project. It has to be, right? It has to be. Yeah. Yes, please.
You got involved in it.
Yeah.
So how are you getting your kids? They want to do it?
Are you pursuing the family?
So
Our daughters are 16 and 18. So
we definitely have drugged them around like France and into cellars and trying to taste wine with them and just just share it, make sure it's a comfortable thing.
It's dinner conversation, and I think
they probably have heard too much about the business that they've and the trials and tribulations. I think with them, my personal thing would be if they did want to do it, I would make sure I wouldn't have them come back young right away. And I would have them travel the world and jet set around and chase the harvest and work in different countries and different cellars and get more of different experiences than just coming straight back to it.
You actually want them to be in it. Yeah, I'm a lawyer. I don't want my kids to be
right. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't have. Having been in the family business, it's challenging and it's very. I don't know if I do want them to actually really, but if they wanted to, I would definitely embrace it and be very fortunate, and that would be exciting. But I would be a lot more cautious. So like my dad and I are more business partners than father-son, which has its, it takes a toll and it's challenging because I was so young. So when I did come and we worked for so long together.
I think it's interesting too, because we all, as we grow, you have a comfort level with whatever it is, the industry that your parent is in. Always. I mean, my parents were teachers. I got my teaching credential. It just happens that way. And so I think the door is definitely open to them in the industry. I think what I'm most proud of for me in my family history, I broke the mold being an entrepreneur. And I'm really proud of the fact that the kids have watched us sort of grow this whole new business, just the two of us, and explore different outlets. And, we've got labels on the dining room table trying to pick the one, and, or he's blending in the garage, or, those types of things are fun for them to see. Our oldest one is an environmental science major at UC Santa Barbara. And this brand really was driven by her passion to do the right thing for the planet. You know, it was really fun to be like, okay, well, we could do lightweight glass or we could do heavyweight glass. A luxury brand with, you know, really high quality wines typically has a really heavyweight glass bottle, but she felt like a
Why?
lightweight glass. Yeah. Why? You know, why would we do that? That's wasteful. Those types of conversations are happening at home. And so I think, you know, even if they don't go into the industry, they at least have seen a startup business from the ground up, and that's really special. So, yeah, I think they could do anything.
And that is a whole part of another side of the business here we haven't even touched on is the branding and the impact and, you know, like down to the glass, like the luxury brand is heavy bottle. We've chose to go with a real lightweight bottle just based on the carbon footprint of shipping, but also even receiving the glass when it's empty. You know, if it's every case is 5 pounds less than it would have been, even with no wine in it. Why are we doing that? And why are we putting that stress on the delivery person's back, having to lift this heavier cases and
Or
this
the
light?
capsules,
Yeah, we
or
don't
the-
use capsules. We use post-consumer waste paper. Our label, if you put it on ice and water, it's going to bubble and fall off and not look all perfect
It's not
because it doesn't have
chemically
all this
treated.
treatment.
Really, we tried to go about it. Well, it's a hobby, it's a passion project. It was everything that we wanted to do in the industry, the way we wanted to do it. So whether that made financial sense or not, it's the right thing to do. So, and that's something that we're really proud
That's
of.
where the reward is
Yeah.
able to do it. Oh, yeah.
And now we're fortunate Gibsy gets to work with her sister, where before it was Joe, our childhood buddy, and now it's Gibsy's sister doing the labels.
Oh, yeah, she's the graphic designer, so that's been really fun. And yeah, it's been a journey. It's been, you know, some of the other things that we've done that we've enjoyed are connecting with other small businesses, partnering with, you know, the SBDC. We
I
partnered with-
swear we didn't pay you that.
I feel super
Thank
lucky to have been connected, and I credit that to you. We were actually at a water polo event, I think, and Judy was like, "Gibsy, come sign up for this. We can help." And it's been a really great journey. And I think, you know, we were able to partner with At Her Table and do some events through there. And we've met a lot of great more people outside of the industry through a company that we are running ourselves. You know, with Peachy Canyon, we use that as, you know, it's already established. And so we're not pushing the limit. You're not as inspired to go run out and call the next business and say, hey, do you want to do a giveaway on social media? Or, you know, hey, let's do a winemaker dinner. For us, you know, I just reached out to Edible Slow even because it's fun to think, you know, like, okay, we don't have a tasting room, so how do we connect with our customer? Let's do that winemaker dinner. You're doing a dinner series. We're more motivated to get out there in the world
And do things differently.
and do things a little differently. Yeah, because we're not running a tasting room and we don't have stuff. So
Fable and Maven.
yeah, all of those companies we've connected with. So yeah, it's been fun.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Any questions? Yeah.
What's that?
Passion definitely comes through.
Yeah.
It kind of has to, you know, do those, like, you know, like we were talking about the break even and the, all right, like if that was the purpose in the beginning, we'd be crushed. It would just be devastating. But, you know, when you see the excitement on the people when they try the wines, when I also sell some grapes now that the vineyard's coming online, so we get to collaborate with other wineries. Which is kind of nice. You know, Peachy does make a wine off it now with the Zin, and then Top Winery, Torrin Winery, and McPrice Myers. They also get some fruit off the vineyard now, and this harvest they will. And to see what they do with it is that passion as well, and to see their excitement about what we've created from the ground up, you know, from the planting of the vineyard and whatnot is pretty cool. Yeah.
So do we have time for one last question? Let's see. Biggest challenge, biggest reward. I think you've touched on a lot, but anything you want to add in that?
I think biggest challenge is to make sure we still have our relationship and our family that's not work. That's, you know, to not constantly talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's a huge challenge. I think Gibsy's better at it than I am. I will be constantly, I'll bring it out, I'll speak, or I'll stay late, and you'll stay late in your work. But yeah, I'm getting better, I think, is
Yeah.
maybe as they get older.
Yeah, well, I think we're separating from our family business and now we have our personal business, so it's all complicated, but
Yeah.
I think for me and the marketing end, trying not to be cliche. I mean, every winery has that same picture where somebody's walking through the vineyard, and we showed one, but he wasn't walking through the vineyard, you know, those types of things where you're kind of trying to skirt the
Something different.
the expectation, you know, and that's been fun creatively for, you know, on the marketing end. The photography, we have a fabulous photographer that comes up from LA and just pushing the limits with that and bringing in all these people. I am always looking for local models, and we bring all these people in and we do these big shoots.
Gives you all the shoulder tap people at a restaurant, a host, a server or something. Yeah.
Shoot, yeah, it's been really fun, and I collaborate with a friend of mine who owns Bijou in Paso and a little shop there, and she's fantastic and does all the styling, and so that's been the challenges and a fun, rewarding challenge of like, how do we create this lifestyle brand in imagery? And we don't have any images that you can see, but you can go to our website and you can see what we're doing.
Instagram,
But yeah, trying to draw that customer in to want to live that lifestyle with Thibido wines. So
and we do have one last question. With your business getting into selling grapes, as well as your wine, what is your business model? Well, I think that is the business model.
So, well,
right?
yeah, I get the question kind of is like, I think I'm reading into it, like, are you selling and wine, or essentially what we want to do is we're selling the fruit as the brand slowly grows, and eventually there'll be less fruit for sale as it keeps going into the brand.
Right.
So yeah, we won't be selling fruit forever. Maybe to Peachy because they do a Zen, you know, but it'll take a long time,
Yeah.
but as the brand, eventually we'd like to produce all the wine off the vineyard, but
that's a lot of wine.
it'd be a lot of wine though. Things will be good if we hit that point.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Gibsey. Thank you, Josh. It's really awesome to have you guys here and to learn about this new venture. Thanks for sharing. Thank you for making the time.
Yeah, thank you.
A couple of reminders. So we do have a recording that will be available online. It's on our website. It stays on forever. So you guys can share the link.
5 years later.
We have some upcoming events. So we have a hybrid workshop on all entirely in Spanish, how to start your business. It's 100% in Spanish. We're very excited to be having this workshop July 27th, 1 to 3, online and at the Hot House. It is in Atascadero. Okay, great. And in Atascadero. So. And then we have one on all the SBA loan programs, how to apply, what are the programs that are available, how to apply. We have some experts coming in August 3rd. So anyone looking for any type of SBA loan, there's lots of opportunities out there for depending on whether or not you're trying to purchase equipment, purchase real estate for your business, lots of really supportive programs that are available. So come learn about that August 3rd, 9 to 10:30. It is hybrid, and that one is hybrid in person at the Hot House. And that's it for today. So good to see everyone. Thanks again. And everyone have a great rest of the day. Thank you.